Happy Friday to one and all out there in YouTube land, wherever and whenever you're watching. I'm back for another video, which was going to be just, you know, what I picked up this week. But, along the way, it was just gonna be about 6 books, and actually just in less than 24 hours from, going to the shop, it grew out to 9 books. In fact, some really cool stuff happened at my shop yesterday, and I got a package today from mycomicshop.com, which I was expecting around this time actually. Maybe the latest would have been next week, but it arrived today. So before we get to this huge stack of comics, you know I'd actually like to throw in some stuff, some comments on some stuff that I left off my last video, that I left off my last video. In fact, I already opened my package because I knew it was gonna be a bit of a long video, and I actually just read the book that I got. Anyways, before we get to that, as I said, there was some thoughts that I had, left out in my last video, and that's concerning the Marvel show Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which debuted here in Mexico on Wednesday, not this, not last week. We're actually a day behind the States, and I gotta say, I don't like the show. It's not a good show. It has no hook. It's kind of boring. I mean, I get that you know they want to expand on the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I don't know. I mean, no disrespect to Joss Whedon. I mean, you know, he's a fantastic talent, and he comes from a long line of screenwriters and radio writers. His grandfather actually wrote for one of my favorite all-time radio programs, The Great Gildersleeve, and I know his dad, also writes. His brothers, I also are in the whole legacy, but it's a miss for me. It's a miss for Agents of Shield. It left me cold. I commented on it last week on Comic Book Roundtable. It was just an absolute bore. Just did nothing to me. Didn't do anything to get me excited. And while Marvel might be dominating, on the big screen, I still think DC has, the whole dominion on television. I mean, Arrow is a great show. I love the show since it began. It has a good hook, and it focuses on a hero, not on a supporting character. And I think that's where they went wrong with the whole concept. The Phil Coulson character, he's great in small doses. If you wanna watch a Marvel show, I think you'd expect something with their heroes, not with the Shield agent and his little team. And that show made such an impression on me as watching grass grow that I missed the second episode last Wednesday. So on Wednesday. So you know it has a bit of a problem. If you the thing about maybe Smallville or Arrow is that they're superheroes. You know who Superman is, and thanks to Smallville, most people know who Green Arrow is. It's more grounded, but and it doesn't really you know, make it comic booky. It doesn't, you know, use the comic book mythology, if you will, on the stories. For fans, they throw in these little things here and there, you know. Uh, and the only show that DC had that was very much, hooked on the comic book lore was Birds of Prey back, in the early 2000s. That show only lasted like 13 episodes, and I knew it had nothing that would attract the casual viewer because it's way too much into the comic book stuff. References to the Earth 2, for example. They had a Huntress, but she was Batman's and Catwoman's daughter. That's Earth 2. Uh, they had a reference to the Killing Joke. And you had this whole opening sequence explaining, the whole concept of the show. If it's a good show, you don't need that. And as well, that show also had a very small budget because the CGI was really bad. I think most of the stuff was done in sound stages and backlots, instead of real exterior locations. So you know that's probably only the only failure DC's had in what 70 plus years, 75, 74 years, 70, about 69 years since the Superman radio program came out in 1940. So yeah, I think it was a wrong call to do a show around Shield. It's not working for most of us. I've heard comments. It's not working for us. I read that ratings dropped on the second episode. So I think Warner should really think about that Gordon TV show, Commissioner Gordon TV show they are planning, because despite that, it's just gonna be another cop show. I mean, I don't know. Even if you start throwing in the classic Bat villains, it's still gonna be a cop show. So, you should really think about doing shows going around, supporting characters, because they're not as iconic as the heroes, and you only see small doses of them in the comics, and that's what they're there for. Just an addition to the to the hero's world. So with that being said, uh, let's go to the books, because it's there are a lot of books to get into. So first off, Forever Evil #2. Now I usually show a Superman book first, because that's usually the first DC book I read. But Forever Evil was the first DC book I read this week. I really enjoyed the story, but as it turns out, thinking about the whole issue, it's a cohesive story because Geoff Johns does the transitions well, but it's really just little sections of stuff happening, mostly set up for the tie-ins that are coming out starting this month. So the good thing, and I think this makes our Dowdy 95 and me very happy, Bizarro makes his debut. Like I said, it's a whole bunch of sections after that. We have the Teen Titans who end up, fighting Johnny Quick with which is this guy, and Atomica, um, the evil version of the Atom, uh, before they even get to confront the rest of the society. And that whole section of the book just sets up, the upcoming storyline. Uh, when we look at the syndicate, at the crime syndicate, where we get a tease for the upcoming Rogues mini, as tiny mini. So just little sections here and there. The hooded, the captive they showed at the end of Justice League 23 shows up again. He wasn't in the first issue of this. Um, Besides that, we kind of learn a little bit about the society, about the syndicate. It seems Superwoman is pregnant with Owlman's kid, but she's married to Ultraman, which I'm not. I don't think the original version of the syndicate had that dynamic, but that was really introduced to them when Grant Morrison did his version of the Crime Syndicate, in the Earth 2 graphic novel, which they were, instead of being on Earth 3, they were on the antimatter universe Earth. So they actually had that dynamic that, Superwoman was married to Ultraman, but she was screwing he's not here, Owlman. So that's probably the only thing we learn and from them, but we actually find out that apparently Batman is okay. He shows up at the end with Catwoman carrying a Cyborg, and he says that the rest of the league didn't make it. So that's interesting because we know they did. If you've been uh, reading up on the solicits and injuries that have been going on around for the Justice League of America tie-in issues, which deal with Martian Manhunter and Stargirl. So good issue, a lot of good transitions between scenes, but they're just like little bits and pieces there. So I enjoyed it, but once you start thinking what happened in the book, you know, A was Luthor liberate uh gets what would that good word for me to use, Luthor frees I guess Bizarro before he was completely done. He was set to develop in 10 years and it's only been 5, so that's why he's kind of like a Bizarro. The Teen Titans fight Johnny Quick and Atomica, and they get into the past when Johnny Quick uses Kid Flash's vibration against him, creating a portal that sends the Titans into the past. So that follows up in the upcoming Teen Titan issues. We get a little bit on the that's a little setup up for the Rogues mini series. Okay, and we kind of learned that Ultraman wants to keep the coded prisoner alive, while the rest of the society wants him dead. And Ultraman says we can use this guy when our enemy, that whoever went in and destroyed Earth 3 shows up. But the old man says, but we have to let Dick Grayson live. So and that then the beginning with Batman apparently being okay with Catwoman. I mean, I'm not even sure if Catwoman was recruited by the society, or who this Batman might be if he says he didn't make it. I don't know. I don't know. There's some mysteries there. No, like I said, now, so Batman and Catwoman show up in Star Labs. I didn't mention that with Cyborg. Okay, moving on. Action Comics number 24. It's a $3.99 book. It's got a nice, you know, heavy stock glossy cover, heavy stock paper. It's only 22 pages of story. They remove the backup. So anyway, they remove the backups, but anyways, the story. So this picks up after Superman number 23, which had Superman facing off against the new version of the Psycho Pirate. Lewis was in a coma since Superman Annual number 2, and from the excuse me. Sorry about that. So anyways, she's been in a coma since at the end of Superman Annual number 2. So it really picks up on two fronts. First, Lewis is in a coma, and in issue number 20, Superman number 23, she wakes up briefly and says Superman's name. So it really opens with with Lewis's boyfriend, telling the doctor that she woke up, but the doctor says no, she's still in a coma. Meanwhile, Superman is fighting the Psycho Pirate. We learn a little bit more about who he is. We got his origin back in issue 20, Superman number 23. So Psycho Pirate uses his power and gets into Superman's head and twists like every emotion and every memory, so as to be able to control Superman by breaking all those mental barriers. I mean, able to free the rest of the 20 that the Hive Queen had kidnapped years ago, getting them ready to help Brainiac download the consciousness of his people, which we already know quite a bit about that. And the ending though had a very interesting twist to it. Lois Lane, and I didn't want to spoil this, but you say go get it, but I'll do it anyways. Lois Lane shows up some sort of energy being coming to help Superman. So I can't wait for Superman number 24 to see where that ends. But I don't think we'll have a very satisfying ending, because I believe this is just setting up stuff for a much bigger story, which by the way Lobdell hinted at or has hinted at in various interviews. And by the way, the story was actually not written by Scott Lobdell. It was written by former Supergirl writer Mike Johnson, and the artist by Taylor Kirkham, and the Jesus Marino. It's in the as it says in that cover, but it's actually Mike Johnson and Scott Lobdell running this issue. This is, I think, the second one he hasn't written, and this is the second. Okay, next up, Green Lantern number 24, part 1 of Lights Out. Another DC book with an amazing twist. As how Kilowog, John Stewart face off against Relic, and Yeah, I mean, I did not see that coming. They're promising big, big changes for this with the whole Green Lantern universe. And the way this issue ends, I think they're going to really, really, fulfill their promise. So I'm not gonna spoil it anymore. And, just basically Hal facing off against Trellick, with the help of all by himself, really. As Hal takes control of, starts giving orders to, try to save whoever they can and wherever they can from Oa. Very good, you know. I am really enjoying what they're doing with Green Lantern. Still, still, expanding on the universe. A lot of ideas that started with Geoff Johns, Vendetti and company are actually continuing that expansion of the Green Lantern universe. Last new DC book for me, at least what I originally had planned buying, and it's part of my pull list, is Green Arrow number 24. This concludes the Count Vertigo story, and it's a very definite ending for it. You know, Green Arrow defeats Vertigo, who has come to Seattle, uh, wreaking havoc. But in the end, the hero wins. I do have a few issues, and I've mentioned it the last time I talked about Green Arrow, which is Richard Dragon as a villain or as a criminal element. I'm still not too happy about it. There's still more story, I suppose, so we might find out stuff about him, about Richard Dragon that could make me think, that I was wrong in my feelings toward the character. So, talking about TV shows, though, and I talked about Arrow earlier, it turns out that this issue introduces for the first time the character of Deagle, who is a supporting character in the Arrow TV show, named after Andy Deagle, who wrote the excellent um, Green Arrow Year One. Uh, so so this is probably like the fastest, TV or other media character that I remember coming into the mainstream DC universe. Not since maybe Jimmy Olsen, who pretty much showed up, I think, about a year after his debut in the radio program. So it's got Deagle on. So, as always, the art in this book is amazing. Jeff Lemire really just, taking the story, in very unexpected ways. I mean, I definitely love this splash, this double page spread. It's amazing. The art by Andrea Sorrentino. Um, like I said, I'm not really too happy about what they're doing with Richard Dragon, but it seems like this guy has the uncanny ability to pretty much, study, analyze battles and stuff. So we get this like panel where we see, you can't really see it too well, but he's just pretty much studying Shadow, who went off to fight the Vertigo because Green Arrow was still kind of off after his last encounter with a good count. He couldn't even shoot a straight arrow. Um, and in fact, finally Green Arrow figures out how to defeat him. In a way that is definite, at least for the time being. Vertigo is going to jail, so I mean that he might come back anytime. So as always, Green Arrow is just kicking ass. I'm really enjoying it. Very unique book, very unique in the sense that the art plays a huge role with it. So very interesting book, very unique. Okay, so those were my DC books. Now I'm going to go with the only Marvel book I'm picking up. All New X-Men is now All New X-Men number 17, part 6 of the Battle of the Atom story arc. I'm only following it through this book. I'm not having any problem following the story. I mean, it certainly helps that Marvel has been keeping up with putting this previously in page. So that kind of catches me up on the stuff that I missed. But Bendis is doing a good job in making it easy to have a full story within the book. Here we learn a few things about what happened in the future. Dazzler becomes president of the United States, but even before she, but on the election night, she had shot. A group of X-Men end up, being her, so the X-Men of the future that showed up before aren't really the X-Men they after the events where she got shot and a whole bunch of mutants. They kind of went their own separate way. It's not a dark future as we find out. It's a much peaceful place than what the other future X-Men had been telling the present day X-Men. So it's kind of this is a very good. It's a very good story. The whole Battle of the Atoms has a lot of twists. So I don't want to get too much into it because I've still got a few more books to show, and I'm almost hitting the half hour thing. So I really enjoy. I mean, you actually don't start where it left off. I guess the last, you start with like this splash, this page here, and I didn't have any problem following the story along. I had a very satisfactory reading experience with it. Didn't feel lost or anything. So Bendis is doing a very good job with the writing and the storytelling. Though I do have a complaint though. I like the art, but like in most Bendis books, you don't get the very traditional sense of reading the whole story from one page. Like you actually ended up getting you end up reading it from from left to right, but from the left. Let me have an example. Like this, you don't actually get a lot of these type of pages where you just goes across the story, goes across the whole book instead of just being one panel per page. You get a few of those, but you get a lot of those stories where pages where you have double page spreads in the whole throughout the whole story. I mean, there's just way too many double page spreads, and the like that. So and in a lot of Bendis books, you actually get a lot of that. Where you end up reading from one here and ending start reading from here, and end up the whole sequence ends up like right here or whatever. So it's really hard for me to. So it's a little bit hard to follow, the story flow, you know. But I think, and I've seen it in a lot of books by Bendis, it sort of adds more elements to the story. But you're usually used to following. You go from one page to the next. It's not reading across, the two pages. So it's a little bit hard for me to follow at times. Um, uh, Anyways, I'm losing my train of thought here. So we're going to my first back issues. So this is all new X-Men number 6. So I'm pretty much down to almost getting 7 more issues, and I'll be all caught up with all new X-Men. This book does have a problem, and that's the fact that Kitty mentions that Jean taught her, but that's not true. Kitty met Jean Grey at the end of issue 131. When she joined the X-Men, Jean was already dead. And, by the time they were in the same X-Men team, was already a full-fledged X-Men, not a X-Men in training. So, really, any, Jean Grey and Kitty Pryde really haven't had that much contact with each other, or, a really good relationship with each other. They just never been together for long, if you will. During I believe the entire Grant Morrison run, Kitty wasn't even part of the X-Men at that time. Right, she was part of the X-Men at that time. She returned to the X-Men after Grant Morrison's run, after Jean had died a second time or a third time, or a fourth time. I don't know how many times Jean Grey has died, but they were never really together for long in the same team, so they really had very little interaction with each other too. So I guess Bendis thought that maybe he could sort of start a sort of relationship between Jean and Kitty, but they should have told him you can't do that, because they never really were together, and he never really worked with Kitty in any sort of capacity, which we'll get into that a bit later. Okay, so 2 surprises for me. So in my last video I complained about how I got screwed with the freelance man, how my large shop was just either you got your 3Ds, you put them in your pull list, or you had to buy the 3D by buying the 2D car and getting overpaying for them. Some issues were around $20, and we're going for about 50, the whole combo thing with the 2D 3D thing. Well, I should have gone to my smaller shop, because when I went there yesterday for my pull, which is all my DC books that I showed, he actually had saved most of the Superman books and the Green Lantern books all in 3D at cover price, or the equivalent of cover price, because he actually charged a little bit more on the comics, because it goes for 15 pesos per dollar on the exchange, and I mentioned that before. So he had Zod, Metallo, Parasite, Brainiac, not for the Superman stuff, and then he had for Green Lantern, he actually said Immogul and Sinestro. I didn't expect that, I was surprised, and I wasn't, and actually, have a number for in my head, a budget for every week, how much I'll be spending every week. I know I look at the new releases page in previousworld.com, so I know exactly what's coming out that week. And so I knew I was gonna get my DC books and the only X-Men stuff. So I ended up spending a little more money than I expected, and obviously I wasn't really interested in Mogul, and I wasn't interested in the Parasite. I already had the Brainiac issue, in 2D, but I wasn't, just gonna get for the darn cover. So I just picked up Zod and Metallo, which I paid for this week, and next week I'll be getting the picking up Sinestro. So here it is, Zod 3D cover and Metallo. I really enjoyed the stories actually, and especially I was really, after reading reviews on Zod, I was interested to picking it up because we've seen bits and pieces of Zod's backstory, and it seems kind of contradictory, but a bit of contradictions there, but it does keep several years, so most of the stuff we've seen before with Zod actually does kind of fit. And the Metallo issue, which is written by Solly Fish, who actually did the backups, as I mentioned, during Grant Morrison's run, picks up where Metallo, the Metal Zero story left off, where John Carbon story left off, and brought it to the present. So again, I really enjoyed the story, and I was lucky. I would I was going to eventually be picking those books up. When they went to the back issues, I could have eventually would have picked those up, on the slow week or whatever, because they still had those at the shop with the 2D covers. But I should always trust my smaller shop, because now that guy is great, and he saves me the books, and make up my mind on what books I might want to get. He doesn't play the speculator game. He doesn't, like my shop now just keeps saying, we're just trying to also the hoarders, but they end up, overpricing stuff, and taking the giving new readers a chance to try new things. I mentioned what they did with the New 52, 2 years ago. They overpriced a lot of books. I wanted to try, Batgirl #1. I couldn't pick it up because, it was costing, about, I think about $13. They are around there, was around 120 pesos. I had a pool. I'm not gonna overpay for a book I might be interested in. They say no, we're trying to control our hoarders from people buying multiple copies, and well, you heard my rant before. So I leave it at that. So that was very cool from my guy. I wasn't gonna turn all of them down. I mean, he saved those books for me. So and there were books I was interested in after reading about them. I could have, like I said, I would have eventually picked them up in the back issues, but that was very cool. So I had to pick up a few things. I've been saying no to him. Anyways, rambling on here again, and this is becoming a very long video. Sorry about that, but tons of stuff there. So as I mentioned, well, just before I started this, about well, earlier today, before I even started doing this video, I got a package from mycomicshop.com. Knowing that, it's gonna be a long video, I already opened up the package. I actually even just read the book, and this is a this is one of those major key books for me. Uh, if it's one of my favorite X-Men characters, uh, and I'll show it, and here we go. Uncanny X-Men number 139. Actually, officially, but still X-Men 139. I think it changed its title in issue 141, I believe. So, anyways, this is a to me, this is a very a key issue for me. Uh, though Kitty Pryde officially joined the X-Men, and though she showed up at the end of the previous issue, here she officially joins. She gets the code name Sprite as well, and the cover actually starts, the tradition of welcome to the X-Men, whatever, hope you survive the experience. This is the first, welcome to the X-Men, whoever, hope you survive the experience. This is the first time it's been used. Then it became a little bit too overused. But what I like about the cover is you have all these things going on, I know Kitty is right in the middle of it all, which is very symbolic. You have all this stuff, Uh, and I really thought about picking up this book, to me, oh, give me a second. Let me put my head straight. So yeah, so I'm a big X-Men fan. I have a very decent run. I don't think I'll ever have a complete run though of the X-Men, but I pick up what I can actually. So this is like my earliest X-Men book so far. It's a key. Like I said, you know, Hugh Pratt gets officially joined the X-Men. Um, it has an appearance by it also starts a two-part story with the Alpha Flight that features Wolverine and Nightcrawler. I really thought hard about getting this book. It's in a 6.5, fine plus. Um, and I really thought about getting this book. After I thought about it's a big book for me. I mean, Kitty officially joining the X-Men, and she's one of my favorite X-Men characters. I think the cool thing about the X-Men is that they've had so many characters showing up uh, throughout the years that everybody has a favorite X-Men character. And actually, Kitty is the first new member of the X-Men since the all-new team began back in Giant Size X-Men number 1. So it's also a huge deal. This book, and it also has a few letters talking about X-Men number 137. So I'm kind of like in the middle. 2 issues ago from this book, Jean Grey dies. 2 issues after this book, Days of Future Past begin. So but I'm right there in the middle of two big stories that became X-Men Legend. So yes, read the book. Really enjoyed the story. It's got Chris Claremont, John Byrne. What else could you ask for? Um, so yeah, and I was waiting impatiently for this book because I really wanted to get it. This is a big book for me. and I got a really good price as well. Though I did notice, shipping did go up on did go up for mycomicshop.com, so I did pay a little bit more than what I expected to pay. But this book I don't see every day here in Mexico. I don't. So you know, better grab it quick. And I would probably even find that if I ever saw this book at my shop, I probably would have gotten it a little bit, at a much higher price. So anyways, that's my big haul for this week. Full of surprises. I started with thinking of showing only 6 books. I ended up showing 9. A lot of surprises for me this week. Really nice way to end the week. Well, until yeah, a really nice way to end the week. And well, today being Friday, comic book roundtable is on, so I'll probably be there commenting. So I'll talk to you then. And if our Dowdy books show up, uh, and he gets his books today, then I'll be there with you guys watching and enjoying Comic Book Friday. So until later, I'll be saying as I always say, keep smiling.